Hey everybody, Christina here at Mind Over Mania. I'm going to be doing another pick a group reading where the question is, why am I avoiding the truth? I know this particular topic was something I was thinking about while I was driving home this weekend, and I realized that there's a lot of difficult truths that when it comes to the healing process are very hard to be able to accept or be able to look at. Part of the healing process is as you are releasing things, new things about yourself and about situations will arrive. Sometimes you can get stuck and have a hard time being able to look at a truth, even if you've been doing all the work and you've been trying extra hard to accept something. There might be something that's blocking you from being able to fully accept that truth. And that's what this reading is going to hopefully assist you with. So today I have 4 groups, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to take a moment and ask yourself the question, why am I avoiding the truth? And then take a second and see which crystal resonates with you. So for group 1, you have green opal. For group 2, I don't know what this crystal is. It kind of looks like a quartz. However, I'll kind of put it up to the light if you guys can see it. It looks like quartz, but it is a name that starts with A that I can't recall right now because it's late and I'm kind of tired. So that is group number 2. Group number 3 is also another rock that I don't remember offhand, but this one's sparkly and it kind of looks like snow. I may come back and look up the name, but you got snowy crystal for number 3. And last but not least, I have jade for group number 4. So I'm very excited to do this pick a group reading for you guys, and go ahead and look in the description below for your link of which group so you can fast forward, and I will see you then. Bye! Hello everyone, you have chosen group 1, the green opal. So thank you so much for joining me today for your reading, and let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to be answering 3 questions today in regards to this general topic of why are you avoiding the truth? The first question is, what truth are you avoiding? Why are you avoiding it? And how can I accept this truth? So, for starters, I'm going to go ahead and tap into your energy to find out what truth are you avoiding, group 1? Alright, so specifically right off the bat, I'm hearing past relationships. So, are they romantic or in general? I'm hearing in general. So something about your relationships with other people, you have a hard time with understanding what the truth really is inside of you. Like, what is your truth in relation to how things went down with other people, as well as what current patterns you're living out in your day-to-day life. I feel like there are definitely many lessons that are varying from each one of you. However, we're going to try to get as many all-encompassing views within this general reading. So keep that in mind as I'm kind of going through this. But this truth that I'm feeling is... I keep hearing... Okay, so here's some of the words I'm hearing and phrases. I keep hearing... You can't have what you want, or you keep wanting what you can't have. Can't accept your place in your space. Yeah, I'm also hearing you can't accept your space in society. I'm hearing you can't acknowledge what's gone wrong in regards to, like, there's some kind of a distortion with your relationship with other people. There's a mask that you're dealing with being able to release. And it's kind of interesting that I said that because I'm feeling like right around my eyes and kind of over my nose, almost like a masquerade mask, where I'm hearing it seems pretty on the surface, but it gets ugly underneath. And there's some denial about the truth of that nature, that you even are, for some of you, it's the fact that you are even wearing a mask in the first place. You're not fully even aware you're doing that. And for those of you that are, you don't want to be, but it doesn't have to be that way. I feel like there's a difference between needing to put on a mask for survival, and that's not what this is talking about. This is the kind of mask that you won't acknowledge at a deeper level. So I'm going to go ahead and pull some cards to clarify that and get some more information about what truth are you avoiding. So more from this deck. It's very interesting because for some reason these cards are wanting to be placed in certain areas. Wow, group one, you got a lot of cards for what truth are you avoiding, and it's very interesting because there are 4 separate groups of my one tarot card deck that they're going to be needing to be read separately, and then this is the general overall gist of what's going on. So I feel like group one, there's a variety to a bunch of your truths that you're avoiding, and some of them take whatever resonates with you and just leave the rest, because I feel like there's some overlap amongst all of you, but don't really get too caught up on something that you might not have any affiliation with. Without further ado, I'm going to do these 4 general cards, which is going to be the overarching themes with these. So okay, so your first card was Masquerade. Your second card was Naked Before the Stars. And the words I'm hearing are uncomfortable in your own skin. The next one is Perchance to Dream. And this is not allowing yourself to dream. And Atonement. Something about past disaster. Okay, group one. So right off the bat, I'm feeling these are kind of categories or areas that you're struggling with that are just really hard for you to accept for some reason. So Masquerade, I'm going to start with that first because it's interesting. I'm feeling that the truth that you're burying is tied to perception and how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself, and how there's a distortion between what's reality and what's your truth versus another person's truth. I feel like you have a hard time accepting your own truth because it doesn't look as pretty as what everyone else expects from you. And that can mean multiple things. It's not necessarily even just accepting your shadow self. I feel like there's some shadows or things about you that you think are shadows when they are not. They're just you, and they're a part of you, and they're not good or bad. But people around you believe it's bad, so thus you're self-sabotaging yourself on a false belief that belongs to others. Particularly, there's some kind of distortion with your image of who you are as a person. Whether you're self-righteous or whether you are, I'm hearing, in between times. So it's almost like nostalgia plays a big role in what's going on with you, and it's tied into your image. But I'll kind of leave that one there since I have to move on. But The next card is Naked Before the Stars, and I keep hearing uncomfortable in my own skin. Group 1, it's almost like the words I heard was I almost want to take my skin off. Almost like I'm hearing you don't have to hide yourself. Like for some reason the truth about there isn't anything stopping you from being yourself. It's almost like being comfortable in your own skin is about self-love, and you have a really hard time accepting that truth. The truth of the matter is your appearance doesn't matter as much to everyone else as you think. And you're avoiding this because there's some kind of tie to something in your past. Yeah, definitely this has a lot to do with like body dysmorphia of some kind. And not even just body dysmorphia, because there's the physical of you with your skin, and part of it's also vulnerability with others. It's almost like my skin feels so prickly at even the thought of just being vulnerable in front of a person, or I'm like getting like kind of twitchy. So there's some kind of truth that you're hiding within yourself that you don't want others to see because you fear lack of acceptance. And it's about just accepting who you are, your body, your true self, and understanding that vulnerability is a strong point and it suits you. It's something that you are very capable of, and you have a very hard time accepting this. Yeah, this truth about you being yourself is very hard, and you're avoiding trying to achieve that and achieve that body image that you're desperately yearning for. It's almost like you want your cake and you want to eat it too. You know what I mean? Where it's almost like, well, I want to be able to love my body and love myself, but not judge others or not accept who I am right now, even when I'm not looking how I want to look. That kind of mentality, because this isn't only just about physical body. I feel for a lot of you it is, but it's also about your being. Okay, so for the third card with Perchance to Dream, I heard this truth is that you gave up on dreaming. This truth of, I hear you're not very honest about what you want out of life. I'm hearing this truth of you being your authentic self. You can't achieve it if you're running from yourself. And you don't want to be avoiding it all the time. Like, it's almost like, you know, your dreams and the things you want to achieve, they're within reach, but you're avoiding what you can accomplish. And finally, for the third card, Atonement, you don't want to forgive. Okay, Group 1. So I feel like there's a distinct group of you, Group 1, that is affiliated with anger and frustration towards another person, a situation, etc. And you believe that that you need atoned, that you need, like, you're seeking out the wrong truths to validate this lack of atonement. Like, there was no justice, and so because of that, you're going to take the sword out of your back and go stab someone else. Like, your truth is so distorted because of this need for revenge or need for atonement or need for peace, and it's hurting your ability to connect with others. And you're avoiding this because you don't want to admit you're wrong about your situation. This truth has a deeper meaning for you than what is surface level, because this is more than just I'm angry at a person from my past. This is fundamentally how you operate in your relationships, and you're avoiding seeing the truth in others because it hurts you seeing your lack of truth in these types of situations. There's hurting going on. There's hurting going around everywhere, and if you can't acknowledge your own, you can't acknowledge others. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, all right, do these correlate with the corresponding group? They don't. Okay, so, well, that's not very helpful. But, so I'm going to go ahead and try to quickly get to each group as fast as I can, just because I don't want to take up too much time on the first question. So I'm going to just quickly flip them over and get you a general gist of what's going on here. So, all right, so starting with this group. Okay. All right, so for those of you that care, because I'm not going to show all these cards, but you got the Knight of Swords in reverse, you got the Devil upright, you got the Moon upright, 10 of Pentacles in reverse, and then you have the Fool upright or reversed, because both meanings apply in this situation. So this energy is definitely this, I'm hearing sinful regret. So there's a lot of, oh gosh, I almost felt like the wind, I almost felt like my feet got swept out from underneath me and I'm turning left on my head. So I'm feeling like there's been a lack of judgment in some of your choices in the past. And you're having a hard time. You're having a hard time with the acceptance process. So essentially, like again, I'm seeing this Devil and Moon right next to each other. And those two cards are often about, you know, facing your inner vices and demons, but also being able to be introspective. And so there's a bit of chaos. You're afraid of your inner demons. You're afraid to see what's lurking under the surface, because if I find out I'm like them, like the person who hurt me, I can't live with myself. This 10 of Pentacles in reverse is definitely, I'm feeling family vibes. So whatever, or toxic family vibes, I should say. And this definitely, your childhood played an influence over this situation and this truth that you're avoiding, because it's what was taught to you. You were taught to avoid your inner truths, avoid being in your own skin, because the people around you could not for whatever reason, and so they implemented pushing that idea on you. The Knight of Swords in reverse, this card, I hear you stopped fighting the situation, or you stopped fighting those demons because, again, I'm drawn to the image of the man with a sword covered in blood as he's fighting this monster thing, and he's just, I'm hearing he's just resentful from all the fighting, and he's kind of given up. You know, there's a truth here that, you know, you've been trying so hard and putting effort in the wrong things, and it keeps tying back to your vices, and it's this looping and looping and looping, and this you're allowing other people to influence you. You're giving up because it's always a fight and a battle that doesn't win you anything. So you kind of just resent things now. And like the Fool, this Fool card finally, it's about ignorance is bliss. You know, and I feel like you're trying to be self-aware, but the ignorance is bliss feeling is better than facing what's going on around you. And that's a truth that you can't escape, no matter how much you run. So bear that in mind as you're trying to reach out and understand the world around you as it's shifting before you. It doesn't mean that you aren't deserving of love. It doesn't mean that... What am I hearing? It's not that you aren't smart enough to figure it out. What I'm hearing is you aren't smart in the ways of which you need to achieve believing in yourself. It's a very specific message because, you know, you need to know how to believe in yourself in order to believe in yourself. You're missing pieces. There's knowledge that can't be... There's knowledge that can't be withdrawn inwardly. All right, but that's all for this group. All right, this one's next. So I got... All right, so the next group for group 1, you got the Star in reverse. You got the 5 of Cups upright. You got the 9 of Pentacles in reverse. You got the High Priestess upright, and then you got the 10 of Wands upright. So what I'm hearing is, for this particular set of truths, this is all about, for this particular group, this truth is saying that you don't acknowledge when something's wrong. You're complacent on matters that are important to you and put effort into things that influence the energy that's keeping you down. It's almost like you are actively lighting the fire that's coming back and burning you in the ass. It's this energy of looking forward to the future, but you're expecting a different result, and thus it doesn't take long for it to become a setback and set you on fire. And it doesn't have to be this way either. There's like, part of the truth here is that you don't want to see an end game to this cycle. You don't want to be pleased, because it means letting go of the pain, and it means admitting that you're off base. You're off your center. And I'm hearing there's intuition here that's been trying to warn you for a while, but you just won't accept what you can't see or hear. I'm hearing there's like a bunch of skepticism about what's intuitive, what's your pain, and it's kind of causing this whole, again, it's distortion. It's almost like I felt like my feet were coming out from underneath me. And again, I'm kind of drawn to seeing there's a lot of like water and blood in these cards. And like, again, we've got like this antelope where you've got the antelope living in the fields happily and whatnot, but it's in reverse. And then on the bottom deck, you've got a jaguar eating said antelope. And I feel like this is almost like it's that perpetrator-victim dynamic. There's a lot of resentment and violence going on. There's a lot of, you got like these tentacles and tails wrapped around different things, and it's like almost like there's a lot of entanglement that you're going to need to be sorting through in your situation. You are entangled with other people's problems, other people's destinies that are not your own, and you need to start claiming your side of it and your participation in it. All right, here's the next group. Okay, so for this next set of cards, you've got the Ace of Pentacles upright, the 3 of Swords in reverse, the Queen of Pentacles in reverse, the 5 of Cups. Actually, no, this is the 6 of Cups upright, and then you got the 6 of Pentacles. And I keep hearing it doesn't have to be this way. This truth is telling you that your financial situation is supposed to fluctuate. You're bending over backwards for something that doesn't produce rewards back to you. And so in regards to relationships, I'm feeling that there was an unhealthy give and take between you and another person. Someone gave too much, and either they gave you too much and you were complacent in how you handled the relationship, or you were just reluctant to give back out, and that unhealthy back and forth claimed one of your relationships. It kind of depends on your situation, but I'm seeing, like, again, the 3 of Swords in reverse is often about heartbreak of some kind. I'm definitely feeling like there's just a lot of pain that is eluding this truth that you don't always need to be in charge of your financial situation. You don't always need to be in charge of another person's final outcome and their situation. I feel like there's a little bit of a control issue here, because it's almost like you want to sustain yourself, but you don't want to do it with other people around and not do it with other people, which goes against what's necessary in this dynamic. Yeah, with this Queen of Pentacles, I feel like there's a reluctance towards savings for the future or investing in yourself. I feel like you sometimes think it's a waste of money to spend money on yourself when it will help you, whether it be physically, mentally, working towards acceptance of yourself. Your distortion with money is hurting your ability to attract wealth. And this is a truth you're avoiding, that you have more control over your finances than you thought, and you're focused on playing around. I'm definitely seeing a lot of drinking heavily is the one I'm hearing, but also just partying a lot, going above your means, going the distance that doesn't reap rewards. Those types of energies are kind of going on. I'm just hearing there's a winter coming for you financially if you don't change. Again, I'm seeing like there's at least 2 cards here that are dealing with winter. And yeah, I'm just hearing financially it doesn't look good, and you're avoiding this truth because it hurts you. Not understanding how your finances work, what's impacting them, and why you can't just get better at them. So here's the final group. Ooh, interesting. So there's a lot of like purples and blue colors here, but I'm hearing it's a good thing. So for those of you that care, so you got the 6 of Wands, the 10 of Cups, you got the Tower, and then the King of Cups. And I feel like one of the truths that you have that you don't want to accept is you're an emotional guy. I don't know why that's specifically the message. So maybe this is just for the guys that are picking group 1, but I'm hearing you're just an emotional person. And you don't want to accept this because, well, I guess that's for later. But what I'm hearing right off the bat is you want a family. You want a home. You don't want to be dealing with this bullshit anymore. Like, I feel like you're trying and trying to create that family dynamic when it means destroying your own version of what you think a family looks like. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be what your parents wanted. It doesn't have to be what society wants. It has to be what you want and what works for you. And this truth of, I keep hearing you're a loving guy. And that truth is really hard for you to accept because it hurts you being able to even admit that. Like, again, something about with this 6 of Wands, like there's this mountain lion that's like kind of staring out at the card, and for some reason I just have this feeling like, oh, I even noticed there's these little rabbits and flowers underneath. I feel like you need to be so protective of your inner feminine that it exhausts you. And you have this beautiful inner feminine that's trying to come out all the time, but it gets squashed. And like, again, like something about, I'll show you the picture of the card because it's important. Not sure if you guys can see it, but basically this cat looks like he's ready to kill somebody in order to protect his feminine nature. And it's either within him or it's also outside of him too in his life, whether it be, again, protecting his family. You have a soft spot for family, and I just keep hearing, goddamn, I'll defend them to the end. And there's some distortion here because you're attacking everything you see, not just, you can't see the forest from the trees. And pretty soon, if you're not careful, you'll be taking out the wands that you're trying to protect, and swiping at trees instead of at things that don't need protected. But there's a truth there that, it's hard for you to accept not being able to protect the ones that are close to you and the love that you have left. Oh, yeah, that's what I heard first, was the love that's left. You're very, very protective of that. And this is a truth that you want to hide from yourself. Yeah, I'm hearing either he isn't aware or they aren't aware. It's more like they, but there's like a couple distinct male energies that are coming through with this particular group. But Yeah, you just don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear that you're vulnerable at all. It's so hard for you. It literally, like, I almost feel like the sides of my hips are like burning because you're avoiding that truth within you. Yeah, and you're avoiding wanting a family because you don't want to fuck it up. And even though you know you're capable of fucking it up, you can't accept the truth that you're responsible for your end of it, and it doesn't have to be that way. That's a very difficult truth for you to hear. And that's why this tower moment is part of releasing that truth, because you think it's going to destroy you. You think changing your views is going to change how your family loves you. It's going to change how you're loved. It's going to change a lot of things, and you want to avoid that because you think this tower is bad. And you think that these changes are bad for you and that you're going to lose it all, and then you can't have that family if you change. And that simply isn't true. I mean, it's true that this tower moment is going to hurt you, but it's going to help you become the person you need to be in order to achieve this family and these outcomes that you're desiring. But what's also happening is you're hurt and you just don't want to accept it. You don't want to hear it. I keep hearing, he doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to hear it. So, okay. So now that I've got 4 distinct truths that are coming out here, I'm going to move on to the next question of why are you avoiding these truths? And I'm being told right off the bat, this is going to be a difficult question to answer because it's varied. Group 1, and what's going to apply to one of you isn't going to work for all, so I'm going to do my best, and, please request a private reading, I'm hearing, to specifically for those of you that, if you feel unsatisfied with your reading, please reach out and ask for a personal reading, whether you're going on my live stream on Friday or reaching out via my Facebook page, but all I'm hearing is please reach out to someone about why you're avoiding these truths if this reading does not satisfy you. So, okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and grab some cards for why are you avoiding these truths. All right, group 2. So you have 2 piles of cards. Let me kind of get a gauge for what each group means. Oh, this applies to a later group as well. And it doesn't have to be said right now. So I'm going to wait until after this one before I read this one. So I'm going to set these off to the side. All right, so this is going to be overall in general the most accurate reading I can get for all of those truths that were mentioned earlier. So, all right, so my cards are being specific about doing arrangements for some reason, and so what I'm hearing is it doesn't make sense. So the reason why you've been avoiding some of those truths that were mentioned earlier is it doesn't make sense to you. You don't understand why you're being called to change and take action on these things. And some of this misunderstanding is a misunderstanding of what's causing you to feel pain in the first place. I feel like most of you are misguided on why you need healing and what particularly is drawing you towards the healing process. It's almost like you're seeking out validation for your wounds rather than about actually healing them. And this cycle of pretending that it doesn't affect you in ways that doesn't affect other people, almost like you don't always know how to respond to these events. So instead of working on them, you just deflect to other people. And it's hard because you also don't want to see it. And you're avoiding the underlying messages here because it's hard for you. But again, I keep hearing it doesn't need to be this way. And I can't tell if that's your guide saying that and saying that, hey, it doesn't need to be this way. It doesn't always have to hurt. It doesn't always have to, you don't always have to be mean towards another person in order to seek justice and revenge. I mean, this justice and revenge balancing act is killing you. And your past relationships are in the past for a reason. You can look back and learn, but fixating on what's going on with those people currently in their lives, or I'm hearing it just doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter to you what's the reason behind why you're creeping. You're just doing it. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start flipping some cards, though. The order I read them matters too, apparently, so that's it for now. Okay. Okay, so the first 3 cards I have flipped over is I don't know what to say. I've been here before with others, and what did you want from me? And I'm fixating on what did you want from me first, because I'm hearing that you didn't want for yourself what you want for others. So what this is telling me is you're avoiding seeing yourself for who you truly are because you're so focused on other people. You're trying to please them. You're trying to look up to them. You're trying to be someone that isn't authentic, because authenticity is hard when those people that you look up to, admire, and are trying to please are putting you down at the same time. And that's why you're avoiding self-acceptance, is because, well, if they don't accept me, I can't access my inner truth. Because it hurts when people don't love me the way I want them to. So this next card, I've been here before with others. This is a pattern for you. These truths that repeatedly pop up in your life, you're choosing to ignore them in multiple areas. I'm hearing with food in particular, there's a pattern with food that is unhealthy for you, and you haven't let go of those distortions because it causes great pain to have to change your behaviors towards self-care, self-actualization, and wanting more for yourself. And other people have taken advantage of you for that. And so you're avoiding that you're avoiding authenticity because I'm hearing they can't have you, or because they want you and you can't allow that. She doesn't want to listen to her guides because others' opinions matter more than her guides and her own voice. And again, I'm hearing doesn't have to be that way. The next card is I don't know what to say. Okay, no, I have to go back to this card. For the I've been here before with others. What I'm hearing is she doesn't have to listen to other intuitives. She just has to listen to herself. As long as she does that, she'll be golden. She'll be okay. She avoids listening to her gut because she doesn't want others to think of her as greater than them or less than them because of believing in her intuition and believing in herself. It's hard. You're avoiding telling the truth. You're avoiding telling the truth because it doesn't rest inside you. Right, there's more. And because you've been here before with others, this is a cycle that is going to repeat and doesn't necessarily mean you can't break it. It's the kind of pattern that comes from distress and lack of belief in oneself. And that's kind of tied into the rest of the reading as well. So moving on to the I don't know what to say. This card, it's pretty straightforward. It's I don't know what to say. You don't know how to put words to your struggles and your pains. And that's part of the reason why she's avoiding it, because she doesn't know how to put words to it. She doesn't have the language to be able to speak to herself better or to even say what's happening inside. Like, these feelings are she's so suppressed, she doesn't know where her feelings lie within herself anymore. And so I don't know what to say. What's the point? Why listen when no one can hear you or when they don't understand? And that's why you avoid truth in this situation, because it doesn't resonate with others. It's your own truth. It's only your truth and no one else's truth. And because of that, you dismiss it because it doesn't belong in other people's stories about you. But what about your story? It doesn't have to be this way. All right. Flipping over more cards. Oh, can I do that? Okay. Just these? Just these two? Okay. So the next two cards are I'm waiting for an apology, and a little bit separated, and I'm supposed to point out that they're separated, is I fear that you will reject me. And I'm hearing they will reject your apology. That's what you're fearing. You are fearing the truth because you're afraid of the truth because she's avoiding it. I'm hearing she's avoiding waiting for herself to catch up, self-rejection. She's waiting for her inner pain to be resolved externally from her. This waiting for an apology, this whole I'm waiting for an apology doesn't have anything to do with her self-actualization. It has everything to do with what she's actually waiting for. And so this is why you're avoiding these truths about you becoming yourself, because you're waiting for an apology that doesn't even exist. There is nothing to apologize for. There doesn't have to be an apology for anything that doesn't cause another person's distress. You're causing your own distress. And the only way you're going to break out of this loop is it doesn't matter. Don't wait for an apology from others or yourself to start taking care of yourself. And that's where this separation mentally is coming from, is because there's this waiting for the apology and then these, I fear that you will reject me. And this is all within yourself. You fear that you will reject the apology from yourself when it doesn't matter at all. Now, I know that's a little confusing, but when you kind of sit and think about it, if you are waiting to apologize to yourself for self-sabotage or self-harm of some kind, will you reject yourself just because a piece of you is incapable of apologizing yet? Because when you get down to a deeper truth of self-love, it doesn't matter, because you're doing what you need to do in order to survive. And this fear of rejection is more than just self-sabotage. You're fearing rejection from self-actualization and you becoming yourself. You're afraid that if you become yourself, you'll be rejected from within, which doesn't make sense, but it does when you're thinking about becoming yourself. It's almost like you're afraid of your own power, but that doesn't quite fully encompass it either. You're afraid that when you achieve your full self, not only will you be rejected from friends, family, and that kind of knowing, it's almost like self-love to you means I will be rejecting myself and rejecting these pieces of me that doesn't have a place in my life. And this is kind of deep, because that fear is not something you've identified before. It's this deeper fear of, well, self-actualization looks like rejecting pieces of myself, rejecting me for who I actually am, when that's not part of the process. Part of the process is accepting what is and letting go of what can't be, and working with what you have. And that will hopefully cause you a little bit of relief, but this fear is deeper than you recognize, and it's causing you to face unhealthy facts that aren't even true. They aren't with you if they're trying to take advantage of you. And it's easier for you to face self-rejection than self-actualization. Alright, that's all for now, and then both of these need flipped over. And all these need flipped over? Okay. I feel like I just had a breath of fresh air here. Okay, so these two are separated because there's a divide in reasoning. I'm hearing a divide in logic, where logic brain does not understand creative side and feelings and vice versa. There's a hurt between the logic and the feelings. And that's why you're avoiding truth, because these two fundamental pieces of you do not connect. These energies right now are disturbed and not able to mingle because they don't know what they're expecting. And as far as they know, there's always clashes whenever logic and feelings come together. So on the feeling side, which I'm taking as this group, the cards you got were I scared myself that day, and I wondered how far this would go. And I feel like you push yourself to the limit far too often, and you're trying to pressure yourself into feeling more because you can't feel it right now. And that's why you have this card that says, I scared myself that day. It's almost like feelings scare you. You're avoiding your truth because you're afraid of what you're going to feel, and because you have this rage that seems uncontrollable. There's a desire for things that don't make sense, or there's feelings that go unnoticed and unacknowledged. And because of that pattern, there's a lot of self-resentment that's triggering these distortions and patterns, and it's frustrating you. It's frustrating that you can't have this connection between logic and add words to describe what you're feeling. And so that's why you're avoiding facing your truth at all, is because your feelings are just numbed out, shut down, doesn't happen, I'm hearing. Yeah, it's almost like you're like, oh, I don't feel that. I don't feel that. Of course you do. Of course you do. And I think when I go over to the logic side, you're going to get a clear understanding of why that is. Not moving on just yet. All right, what else? I scared myself that day. Something about it's scary to you to feel anything beyond pain. Happiness is a no-go for a lot of you, most of you, from the standpoint that fear and pain are more familiar to you. And so when it goes beyond those feelings, it doesn't really matter what is being done to you in the past or in the present. You sometimes don't understand when there isn't anything to be afraid of. It's almost like you create fear in your mind in order to justify seeking balance or seeking control of the situation or shutting yourself down. Yeah, there's a lot of fear here, group one. A lot of fear. Okay, so this next set of cards we have, I never used to look at you in that way. I don't know how to let you go. I can still see you standing there. I'm sorry. Your body language says so much. Oh, man. So picking up on this energy right off the bat, I'm feeling this heavy weight of, there's some, specifically for most of you, a majority of you, there's a lost partnership that hurt you on the logic level, which that's kind of interesting that I had to distinguish that, because what it's saying is you're thinking about your relationships from a logic standpoint, and it's not connecting, or it's disconnected between the true feelings you're having in regards to this. And it's not like they're unvalidated, it's just that these are the feelings that you think are hurting you right now, or not exactly, but these are the thoughts and patterns that are perpetuating this underlying fear. And they're just words, I'm hearing. They don't necessarily reflect how you feel. They reflect how others feel and how others cope with things, but that's not what your style is. again, I never used to look at you in that way. I heard, he doesn't want me, she doesn't want me. And you don't want to face your self-truth because you're looking for validation from a ghost, I'm hearing. A ghost of what you thought was actually occurring and what you thought you used to know. But it doesn't mean you know them anymore now, and it doesn't mean that the past equates to your future. I don't know how to let you go. There's a lack of knowledge, of self-awareness that logic brain is unwilling to face because it wants to logic through this situation. It wants to think about it rather than feel it out. And that disconnect is so painful. Again, like I almost felt like my throat was closing a little bit because it's almost like I want to cry. Because you don't know how to let go because you don't know how to feel it out. You don't know how to feel through letting go because that pain's so familiar to you that you don't want to relive it again. There's a relationship, particularly in your past. I'm hearing, for most, it's going to be romantic, but for others, in regards to your parents, it's where you don't want to acknowledge. You don't want to acknowledge this whole letting go process, and that's causing you to avoid the truth of what you are and who you are. Okay, I'm also hearing again, doesn't have to be this way. I get that. I can still see you standing there. And I'm hearing you're remembering yourself when you were younger or when you were with this person or with a past version of yourself. And it's almost like you keep perpetuating more and more distortion on this old view of yourself. And this is causing you to avoid seeing what's actually there within because you're so focused on this image of you just standing there, unwilling to help, unable to help, not wanting to help. Yeah, this is a very like disappointed energy within yourself. And that disappointment is triggering unwillingness to go forward, unwillingness to see you as yourself. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just feeling like you're very sorry for yourself. That's why you're avoiding saying what you feel, seeing what you feel, and seeing what you are because you feel sorry for yourself. You don't want to see what happened to you. You don't like seeing that happen. You don't like seeing what's happened to other people, let alone seeing what's happening to you. I'm hearing you're a family man. Of course you're going to want to apologize and make everything better, even when it's wrong to apologize in that situation. You want to make it better. You want the hurt to stop. You want her to stop hurting. But she's okay on her own. She's responsible for her own mess and her own demons. And avoiding seeing that it's killing your own truth. I'm hearing it's about appreciating the love which you lost rather than her demons and what caused the love to dissipate. Because at this point, you've beaten it to death. It doesn't matter anymore what caused the love to go apart. It's now a matter of holding on to what's necessary and left for you and not distortions about the past. And your body language says so much. I'm also hearing your body doesn't want to hear the truth either. So that message is particular for specifically the body dysmorphia crowd. However, it's also in terms to people that don't listen to their body when they're being pushed too far. Don't listen to the foods. Don't listen to what foods you actually want to be eating. Yeah, and I'm hearing it doesn't want to hear your body. And so my first thought was like, again, pushing too hard physically with either working out. However, I'm hearing, or it's again, the whole back to doesn't let me feel. And you're storing traumas in your body. You're storing resentment and not being active or active in a way that doesn't release what your body's telling you. It's almost like sometimes you might get into a social situation and you feel uncomfortable. your body is either getting you sick physically, so maybe you're finding yourself getting sick at a job reoccurringly, or maybe just it doesn't feel right and you don't listen because you don't want to feel it, and because of that it's neglecting your body and what it has to say. So anyways though, alright, so I'm not supposed to do those cards. So that's for why are you avoiding your truth, group 1. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to how can you accept this truth, or these truths in your case. Okay, so I'm hearing don't pull any cards. So here's my advice for you, group 1. I'm hearing first words I heard were don't let go of yourself, let go of the situation. That's the best advice I can give you. And you specifically need to hear that. You have to think about the reasoning when it comes to that particular phrasing, because you can lose yourself in what you're trying to let go, and you don't want to do that. I'm hearing, particularly for the romantic crowd, but this applies to the other group as well, that when you try losing the piece of yourself that was tied to a relationship, that's losing a piece of yourself, regardless of what happened, whether it was a good version or a bad version, or what it's creating now. When you eliminate yourself from the equation of the past, it does you a disservice. It doesn't acknowledge your own truth and what you loved about that person, what you hated about that person, and everything in between, neutral or not. And the less honest with yourself you are about these relationships and what's going on in your life currently, it's a lot harder to hear what your heart is truly telling you and what the truth even is. Again, seeing through distortions is very difficult, especially, again, when you have trauma in your background, which a good majority of you probably do. But that's kind of up for you to determine, you know, what you're willing to share with yourself or even acknowledge, because some of you just don't want to see it. So, and then particularly for the men in this reading, I'm hearing you need to reach out with your heart more, or reach out from a heart space more, which what that's saying to me is that you don't let yourself love another person. You're not letting yourself authentically love another person. You're trying to be lustful, or you're trying too hard to achieve something that isn't what's meant for you. And the moment you start coming from a place of, I just want to love somebody, and even if it doesn't look like what I want it to, it doesn't matter, because love is still love, and you're really hurting for it right now. And it doesn't matter how it's received. It may not always come in a romantic form, but it's still available for you. And I guess what I'm going to do is, for my final parting words, because they keep repeating over and over in my head, it doesn't need to be this way. You can face these difficult truths. You can see yourself for who you actually are, and it doesn't always have to be painful, okay? You were sold a lie if you think that self-actualization is just all doom and gloom and existential crisis. I mean, maybe it feels that way, but it's going to be worth it in the end. And, you know, seeing yourself and being yourself is, you know, a precious part of life that you don't want to lose and miss out on. All right, everyone. Well, Group 1, you had a excessively long reading, but I felt compelled to give it the way that it was. So thank you guys so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Hello, everyone. You have chosen Group 2, which is the thing that looks like quartz, but actually starts with an A. Basically, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to be answering 3 questions today. What truth are you avoiding? Why are you avoiding it? And how can I accept this truth? I've got my lovely companion, Luna, here to help me out with my reading, because she just decided she wanted to check it out and see what was going on. So I'm going to take a moment and tap into your energy, group 2, of what truth are you avoiding? So what I immediately heard was doesn't want to accept the process of healing / getting better. I feel like you, group 2, you're having a hard time accepting your changes that you're going through and what your expectations are coming out of healing and what healing looks like to you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull some cards to clarify about what this truth is. Okay. All right. Okay, guys, so you got a pretty easy, straightforward one. So I keep hearing it doesn't need to be this way, which is interesting because that's what the last group was being compelled to talk about, is that the truth doesn't always have to work out. The truth works out the way it needs to work out, and it doesn't have to look like what you think it needs to look like. It has to work out how it is and how it actually is, not just what is and what isn't, which that was a very confusing sentence, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So the cards you got were the Four of Swords in reverse and the Page of Wands upright. I'm hearing these two cards mean that there's a reluctance towards resting and being within oneself. And this reluctance is preventing you from being able to see your healing process for what it is. Yeah, the truth lies in the fact that she doesn't sit still. She doesn't allow herself to be mindful of her actions and what encompasses the consequences of those actions. Again, that's paired with the Page of Wands, where there's this immature action I'm hearing that's preventing being able to distinguish when to rest and when not to rest, and what is rest and what does that look like. These are all kind of underlying things that you're having a hard time seeing for what they are, and seeing things for what I'm hearing, seeing it is as it is, rather than something that, you know, you can't control everything as part of the moving on process, the grief process, the healing process. Action is taken when it needs to, and when it doesn't, it's being overused in your situation, group 2. So these next two cards you got were the Temple of My Body, and then you also got this one called Parasite in reverse. And I'm hearing there's parasites on your body. Something about, like, within your body there are these energies that are sapping away your ability to want to be alive and free as you are. And these parasites are gaining energy from that. And again, I'm hearing doesn't need to be this way within your specific grounds and your specific form of control. These parasites want you to not have control over yourself and want you to not listen to yourself, because they are able to remain within you and prevent you from being able to grow out and prevent them from being there in the first place. The Temple of My Body, again, you don't acknowledge that your body is a temple and it's a place. I'm hearing your body's a sacred place, and she doesn't acknowledge that, and he doesn't acknowledge that. I'm hearing the he. Okay, so I'm being compelled to, or I'm hearing this in a very distinct way, where it's saying he does not allow himself to exist as he is, period. And it's almost as though this he, in this circumstance, doesn't want to see. He thinks he sees himself as he truly is, but he doesn't at all. It's a truth that is misconstrued and doesn't align with his true values. And for the she in this example, she doesn't want to hear that either. She isn't being loudly advised to do it as much. I don't know why I keep doing he and she, but for some reason there's this interesting dynamic between these two energies. So maybe with the he and she, pay attention to your relationships outside of you, because you may be seeing the opposite feelings that you are having within someone else that's close to you, of the opposite sex, I'm being directed to say. And I'm hearing she doesn't want to be heard. And so with this temple of the body, it's almost like, you know, the truth is your body's a sacred temple, and she's allowed to say no. Like, that is part of your truth. You are capable of protecting your temple yourself, and your choices are part of that protection. And you can't protect yourself from someone that doesn't give a shit about, you know, they can't tell the difference between a temple and a bar stool, you know? And that's a truth that's, you know, hard to admit. And you're avoiding living out that truth of treating yourself in a way that you're sacred, you're special, you deserve to be held lightly and, you know, caressed lightly and loved lightly. And the men too, specifically the men. I'm hearing like, oh God, he doesn't want to even hear that about being lightly held and whatever. He's like, I'm not soft. I can't be soft because I'm strong. I'm feeling, I kind of felt that in group 1, but group 2, you two also have like a certain tenderness that is in it. Yeah, I'm immediately hearing, this isn't my truth. This is the wrong reading. This isn't for me. And I'm like, no, honey. Yes, it is. Maybe you think so, but again, there's this parasite thing where there's a little bit of distortion here that as long as I don't treat myself as a sacred being, as I don't treat my body with respect or with high regards, there's always going to be leeches within reach and not being able to be seen. And I'm hearing some of you are like, what does she mean by out of reach? Like, you know, like if I'm trying to cleanse my body of something, I can do that myself. And I'm hearing you can't. That's a truth that you are not acknowledging, girlfriend, because this truth is so buried into your conscious. I'm hearing like, you know, you don't need that cleansing. You don't need that spiritual reminder to release and let go and take care of your sacred temple, I guess. And I'm hearing like everybody's temple is kind of different. Like, so specifically for this reading, for some reason, I'm compelled to talk about and refer to an inner temple as your inner soul, your inner space, where you go to receive peace within yourself. That is your sacred temple. And what's happening is you don't listen to it, you don't honor it, you don't adorn it with the things that you need to show it respect. And you don't want to acknowledge that because you think, I'm hearing she's the spiritual person, not me, or she doesn't understand my kind of spirituality. And I'm hearing it doesn't matter what kind of spirituality you're preaching or following, whether you're, you know, Hindu, you know, Wicca, New Age, Christian, whatever the heck you're doing. I'm hearing your spirituality is not being honored. And that's a truth you don't want to see because there's some conflicts here. But, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question of, like, why are you avoiding these truths? And why is it so hard for you to be able to hear some of the things that were said? And I'm hearing it wasn't necessarily that what was said was hard. It was, you're kind of in denial that that's something that's existing within your realm, especially when I'm hearing, oh God, I try so hard to be a better person, you know? And I'm hearing that being good isn't what is being meant by honoring your spiritual temple. It has, I don't want to say it has nothing to do with it, but it's definitely your focus, which is derailing from spirituality. Because the goodness and evil and all that stuff, that's about social construct. That does not have anything to do with your inner peace and your inner spiritual life. And once you reflect inwards, outwards, you'll be able to start projecting true spirituality as opposed to this fake nonsense that you don't want to acknowledge as fake, but it's going to occur to you rather shortly that that's the case. So why are you avoiding hearing these things? Okay. All right, so you got 5 cards here. I'm hearing it doesn't matter what order I read these. So, should I got the booklet? All right. So these are some oracle cards that I only recently purchased, so I'm going to do my best to interpret them, and I may read from the book depending on my discretion, but anyways, so I'm going to just read what the card is and then the number affiliated in case that's relevant to you. So we got brand spanking new, which is the number 9. The Dude Abides, number 20. 35, Live Wire. 29, Gotten Owie, question mark. And then 22, Timeout. Alright, and so the reason why you're avoiding those truths that were mentioned earlier is it's a new concept for you. I'm hearing that it's a new thing for you to reflect inwardly, and it's not new in the sense that you don't know how to. It's more of new in seeing from a new perspective and a new way of adorning your inner self. Again, like I keep seeing, like, you know, showing appreciation for yourself inwardly and respecting your own. It's a new way of thinking for you. All right, so the next card is The Dude Abides, which I'm hearing. Yes, is that a Big Lebowski reference? It could be. I don't know, but I'm going to think of it that way anyway. But I'm supposed to read from the book what this card means, so here it goes. It says, it's your lucky day in your lucky life. The dude is patiently waiting for you to come on home. Let him do the heavy lifting for a change. No matter what crazy mess you've gotten yourself into, the dude is here with everything you could ever need. The dude's got your back, rock star. Aw. Gotta trust in the dude. Which, again, I'm hearing you're trying to do a lot of your healing process all yourself, and there's no shame in requiring others to be part of that process. That's why our relationships, you know, help heal us and help hurt us and help us grow, you know, and you're trying to do a lot yourself without putting faith in your spirituality, as well as not acknowledging how far you've come up until this point and how much, you know, God has played a role, or spirit, or whatever, you know, you abide by. Like, you know, the dude abides. You gotta, you know, stop looking inwardly, or not inwardly, stop only relying on yourself, because right now you can't do it all. And especially if you're not facing all of your truths, then how are you supposed to be able to rely on yourself when you're not always accurate? You know? The dude abides. Okay, so another reason why you're avoiding facing your inner truths, you got Live Wire, which I keep seeing literally like a spark plug that's like full of electricity and dancing around on the ground. It's almost like you electrocute yourself and hurt yourself whenever you try facing an uncomfortable truth. it's kind of like, again, an electrical shock, and it goes through your whole system, and you're trying to avoid shocking yourself too hard because there's a lot going on with you right now. And I'm hearing it doesn't really matter when you face this stuff. I mean, timing is part of it. However, you're having a difficult time. I'm hearing like using pliers to try to touch, like, again, a live electrical outlet, and it's too hard for you to do when you have electricity turned on, you know? I'm hearing you have to shut off the flow of energy towards the source. So, you know, turn off the electricity and then go deal with the electrical problem, you know? And right now what you're doing is you're putting so much energy towards what's wrong, all this electricity that is preventing healing from going forward. And you just need to learn to be able to cut off the energy and see the problem for what it is without being so emotionally attached to it. Because again, you're seeing it as like, well, I don't have the technical skill to be able to heal this, or I don't have this, and putting that focus on the not have is preventing the have, if that makes any sense. The God and Owie. Another reason why you're facing the truth is because it hurts. It's definitely something that is a sore spot for you, and you want to prevent future pain, and you think that by self-actualizing in your truths that you won't be able to heal from them again. That why bring up an old wound when it's just going to make me hurt now and doesn't have a place in my future. And that's true. That's definitely true, but what's happening is with this healing process, it doesn't mean bringing it up. And I'm hearing you're provoking the wound rather than healing it. And so it's causing you to avoid letting that truth kind of come out because you want to keep provoking it to perpetuate this live wire scenario. And because it's also because you don't know how. All right, and then the final card you got was timeout. And so I'm hearing that you're avoiding resting and taking care of yourself. Like, again, with that whole body as a temple, like you weren't focused on recharging your spiritual batteries or your live self batteries. And it's really hard to be able to accept a truth when you're being worn out all the time. All right, I wasn't super inclined to say that, but basically, this time up card is trying to tell you to take some spiritual time in your life to recharge and reset spiritually rather than physically. I'm hearing, sitting in the woods. Okay, so I'm hearing that, sitting in the woods isn't recharging you. You're not recharging your inner battery, and that's causing you to kind of burn out and not feel things the way, or you're not feeling things accurately because of that lack of spiritual turning up. It's kind of like, for Christians, they go to church every Sunday, and maybe you don't have a regular routine, but actively having that spiritual element and practice for yourself and not for others is definitely going to cause you to be able to ease up on the pain that you're feeling every time you try to look at things that are uncomfortable for you. Spirituality is so important to you, and it doesn't do you any services to neglect that side of yourself and not have it in your day-to-day practice. So, all right, so that's the why. And so how are you going to accept this truth? Like, what's some advice to help you accept this? Okay, I'm hearing don't use cards. I'm hearing time is really going to be what's going to help you reach this point of avoiding, or time is what's going to help heal your wounds and help you stop avoiding the pain. Because again, what's kind of going on is there's lessons that need to be learned, and when you're forcing yourself to be in a position that isn't exactly accurate, it doesn't sit well with your spiritual growth. It doesn't sit well with your spiritual growth, and it'll prevent you from overcoming past challenges as well as new ones that are coming. This acceptance of truth can be not acceptance at all, if that makes any sense. Because of the fact that, if you are in a place where you can't accept the truth right now, then accept that that's the way it is. Because it's too hard to force yourself into acceptance rather than just allowing it to flow and allowing it to just be the way that it is. And ask yourself, are you avoiding something at all? Ask that question, why? Why do I have these behaviors? Why does this affect me so much? Asking those basic questions will start getting you into it. And I feel group 2, you're definitely more aware than I think you realize of what's going on. It's just a matter of habit, of avoiding these things. And again, the lack of spiritual awareness of what's going on in your situation. So taking some time to step back and evaluate from a spiritual and physical level will really do some good. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for spending time with me, and I hope to see you next time. I hope you enjoyed your reading. Bye! Hello, everyone. You have chosen Group 3, which is the Sparkly Snowy Rock that I don't have a name for, that I will gladly look up later if you are interested in finding out what it is, because otherwise, if you don't care, I'm not going to put the time into that. Alright, so this reading is going to cover what truth are you avoiding, why are you avoiding it, and how can I accept this truth? So I'm going to start off by tapping into your energy a little bit to kind of get an idea of, what's going on here. What truth are you avoiding, Group 3? Okay, so it has a lot to do with just pain in a certain kind of way. You're very, I feel it definitely in my heart space, so I'm assuming heartbreak definitely matters to you and is important for this reading, that you understand that heartache comes in many different forms, and acknowledging your heartache is different than living through it and being by its side. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some cards to try and get some clarification of what this truth is that you're avoiding. Gosh. It's almost like, again, I'm feeling like tears coming to my eyes a little bit. I'm hearing like more, like, I don't know what that means. Alright, so these are all the cards I have. So right now I've got 2 groups of cards and then these 3 in the center. So I'm kind of feeling with this dynamic, there's an energetic gap and some polarity going on in your situation, and your energy, the truth that's kind of trying to come out of this conversation here is seeking balance between 2 opposing forces. Like there's almost like a back and forth. The ship is always rolling on its side and then comes back afloat and then is then carried off into the ocean because it doesn't have a stable set of sitting upright. And I'm hearing that it doesn't matter what other people think of you and what your ocean looks like. It doesn't have to always be in motion. I'm feeling that there's a reluctance towards settling and settling down, or just kind of a reluctance towards patience. And I'm feeling a lot of like tempest type things where it's like, there's a storm raging across the sea and you don't like it when the ocean's calm because you don't want to see into its depths. Right now, it's comfortable for you to be in pain because there's so much of it. You're drowning in a sea that being in pain does not require effort on your part, because you know that it's hard to be within your current state. So why acknowledge what's already there in your mind? You're kind of like, well, I already know it's painful and I know everything hurts, so what's the point of acknowledging it? And the truth is, it's important because you need to let yourself be as you are and allow that process of feeling your pain and noticing and acknowledging these dynamics that are going on, because it's all painful. It's always going to be painful, and it's never going to stop being painful, okay? With whatever your situation is and what you've been through, it's never not going to be painful to have the truths that are sitting inside of you, the things that had happened to you, the things that you are because of what happened to you. It's a truth you're avoiding, fundamentally, because it's hard and you don't know when it's going to get better, and the only way it's going to is when you take the action and decide that you're going to make it better. And it doesn't have to always be within the realm of, you have expectations of what it looks like, but it's also going to be, there's like a reluctance of achieving what you want even. And again, so this is a phrase that I've been hearing within the first two, but it doesn't have to be this way with what's going on in your situation. And you don't want to face that because you like being in pain, because it's easier than clawing your way outwards, or at least that's what you believe anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over some cards. So, okay, so these cards about polarity. And what you got was Revenge, number 23, Peaceful Among Thorns, 26, and then the Temple of My Body, 2. And I keep hearing angels and demons, demons and angels. And it's interesting because you've got these creepy women that have, there's like feathers in the one girl's hair, and this one girl has like these like thorny angel wings. Meanwhile, the guy in the center is a monk who has this big like sigil type steering wheel behind him. Yeah, steering wheel, but you get what I mean. Just some kind of a design like that. And I'm feeling that your truth is that your resistance towards, you're resistant towards resentments from your past. So it's almost like you don't want to feel angry towards another person, because if you're angry towards another person, it doesn't matter what was said, what was wrong. I'm hearing it's wrong of you to assume that righteousness is going to be given. That's specifically the word choice I'm being compelled to say. It's like this false justice, or this false sense of, I can't be in pain if I won't acknowledge it, and if someone else acknowledges it, it's alright because I don't have to. Because if I do, then that means it really does affect my ability to control what's going on and what I'm seeing in my life. Again, this revenge feeling is very distinct because there was an injustice that was done to you, and it doesn't matter what actions you take, the pain doesn't go away. So you're resentful and aren't trying to work on yourself because you've tried at least once in your past, but not enough. You gave up at some point. But because of something bad that happened, it prevented you from seeing the way forward. Because now, like, the way forward, or all that you see, is covered in blood and needing blood in order to feel atonement. And the truth is, it doesn't work that way. That's not going to, like, that resentment isn't going to achieve what your desire is. Again, peaceful amongst thorns, the truth of the matter is there's strength and peace in staying still and allowing, the thorns around you to not prick you. The only way they're going to prick you is if you reach out of your way and touch them. It's almost like you keep walking through a rose garden, and you keep, putting your hands and touching on all the flowers and all the thorns, and then going, why are my hands bleeding? Because you're going out of your way to keep patting the wounds and be like, hey guys, I'm in pain. Hey guys, I'm in pain. It's like, we know. You know. The only person that's not paying attention is you at a deeper level on why you're doing this. And there's a desire for peace here that you don't want to acknowledge because you don't think it exists. Again, the temple of my body. So the last reading was talking a lot about protecting your inner temple and spirituality. And I feel with this group, it's different because your body doesn't feel like it belongs to you. There's a lack of responsibility that you're placing over your body and your circumstances. It's almost like her body doesn't matter to me, and it doesn't matter what she feels about her body. She doesn't want to acknowledge it. And that's she being either you, the listener, or the viewer. Yeah, something about this is, constantly looking over your shoulder, and I'm feeling like she doesn't belong to herself. And you're not acknowledging that you're giving power of yourself to others that don't want to see the truth and don't want power over you. Yeah, you want other people to have power over you so that way so that way you don't have to face your pain. Because in order to continue to feel this pain, it means releasing and letting go, and that means you can no longer place blame on somebody else for what happened to you and what's currently happening to you. And you're waiting for acknowledgement from a force that isn't there to give it to you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the rest of the cards. But, okay, so card-wise, just reading them out loud, you got the Two of Wands, you got the Ace of Cups in reverse. I'm hearing specifically blocked heart chakra. King of Pentacles upright, and then the Eight of Wands in reverse. And it's funny because I keep hearing, like, run as fast as you can. And the truth is that you're running away from yourself more often than... I'm hearing, like, you shouldn't be afraid of what you're going to see when you go inwards. There's a lot of pent-up emotion and pent-up aggression towards yourself, and you're spending all your time running when really it isn't as bad as you think it is. A lot of this pain is overinflated because you don't want to acknowledge what has already come to pass, and it's over. This past event is over, but the place it has in your heart, it doesn't need to be there anymore. This King of Pentacles is a lack of acknowledgement that I'm hearing financial success is within your grasp, and it's something that you're very capable of. And that's a truth that you don't want to acknowledge because, again, it means releasing and giving your power up to a force that isn't in control of your traumatized narrative. Yeah, I feel like this narrative is telling its own story that is not reflective of you. And I see, like, again, there's this bull in front of the King of Pentacles where, he can defend himself. He can achieve prosperity, financial prosperity. When the times are good, you got to be a little aggressive and, take the bull by the horns and ride it into the sunset, You can do that. You are a person that is fully capable of doing that on your own without external motivation other than you just being yourself. And that's not external. It's just part of you living. And it's a truth you don't want to acknowledge because it's hard to see yourself that way because you don't see anything else within yourself that indicates that. And this isn't true, but this is your current viewpoint of yourself. This Ace of Cups, you have a blocked up heart space. I feel like you're a kind person, but what you don't want to acknowledge is that heart space is blocked up. And feeling your pain is going to do way more wonders for you than pretending everything's okay, pretending that you don't hurt other people and that other people don't hurt you. It's almost like there's a lack of acknowledgement of what you're going through. And that's not external. It's just part of you living. And it's a truth you don't want to acknowledge because it's hard to see yourself that way because you don't see anything else within yourself that indicates that. And this is your current viewpoint of yourself. the pain of that what is, and what's you, what's something else, or what doesn't even matter. It just hurts. It doesn't have to have a label. It doesn't have to be quarantined away from you or defined. Like, let the water overflow from the cup. It's almost like, you put too much water in a cup, but somehow you're defying gravity by trying to keep all the water in there. And just let it overflow. Let it, don't allow all these emotions to remain pent up inside of you, because it's killing your heart space right now. And you don't want to acknowledge that, because you want to appear strong for yourself and for others around you. Blocking up that heart space is only going to hurt you more, and that's a truth that hurts you to hear, but it's true, and it's true. And this Two of Wands, it's these two cats that are looking in two different directions, and it's like a sun and a moon. And I'm hearing again, it's this denial of opposites of what's going on. Like, it's almost like you go one way and they go the opposite, and sometimes it's a lover, sometimes it's a friend, but you have a tendency to purposely look in the opposite direction so that way you don't have to see what the opposite side of the situation is. So sometimes it's, she's in the right and he's in the wrong, and then sometimes it's he's in the wrong and she's in the right. I don't know if I said that right. But basically, though, it's polar opposites, but it's in sync with the same kind of wound and the same underlying process. So that's something to pay attention to, that, you are mirroring somebody or something else that you have accepted and allowed into your space. And you don't want to hear that, because something about, you just don't like looking at your reflection at a deeper level. And you got to take the time to acknowledge that there is something there that's reflecting back into you, regardless of what that situation is. And that's a lot harder when there's all this pain that's going on here. So definitely don't take that as criticism, don't take that lightly, because it's true that you've been through so much, and that's why this truth is so hard to be acknowledged in general. Because seeing reflections of things that are terrible or whatever, finding the truth in that is really difficult and hard to hear. And it has nothing to do with you being good or bad. It's just energy, and think of it as those terms, because we all got something. So don't think I'm picking on you, group 3. More with these cards. Okay. And I guess, like, parting with this is, again, it's almost like I'm seeing something to do with eggs. Like, you're hatching and becoming a new person, and you're always going to be reinventing yourself and recreating a new version of yourself. So by selling yourself short for not being the person you want to be, or not healing from something, or just being in pain, it's okay, because you're going to change a lot, and pain creates new opportunities as well as new vices. And so how you evaluate and take advantage of those energies is up to you. All right, so let's see what the next group says. Okay, so the next set of cards you got were the Eight of Pentacles upright, the Four of Pentacles in upright, the Knight of Wands in reverse, the Six of Swords upright, and then you have the Five of Swords in reverse. And I keep hearing doesn't want to hear it. So one of the truths that you are avoiding is you don't want to hear the truth, which is kind of interesting. Because why would your truth be you're avoiding the truth? And I feel like there's a reluctance to admit you're wrong, and you don't want to see yourself in a position where you can get hurt by acknowledging what your real truth is, rather than what's superimposed onto you with your thoughts, ideas. I'm hearing ideals in particular. Like, I don't know if you're a high idealist or perfectionist, but definitely there's this feeling of, I can't acknowledge what's going on. And that's a truth in itself right there. that's even going on. Like, again, with this Eight of Pentacles, I'm hearing, like, you're carrying a heavy burden, but you know how to carry it. You just don't want to admit you can carry it because it's hard. And it's going to be a process and a journey to get there. This Four of Pentacles, it's like this waiting for winter's coming, and you're preparing for a winter that is going to be harsh. And so rather than prepare for winter in order to get through it, you're just going to lay down and let it take you. And you don't want to admit that to yourself because you're a fighter. You're not someone who gives up easily, but there's a piece of you that is ready to give up, you know, and isn't willing to fight anymore. And it's hard for him to acknowledge that because he doesn't want to end up like somebody else that he knows. And the truth is, though, is by acknowledging this truth, those results don't have to be that way. I don't know why, but I feel like suddenly very rigid, and I feel like my arms are kind of locked a little bit. Yeah, you really don't want to hear this because it's hard for you to see what you're going through and see what was replicated from a past wound, either from a family member, a friend, or something. You're replicating patterns and behaviors from someone else, and it doesn't belong to you. And that's a truth that you don't want to hear, or you don't even know, or you don't have awareness, I think is more accurate. You don't have awareness to this truth within you. This Knight of Wands, you're reluctant to take action more than you want to admit, because, again, it's just hard managing all this stuff. Like, you are fully capable of taking action on these issues that are affecting you. However, it's just too difficult for you to see through your pain. And we'll get into why you're avoiding seeing this truth, but, you know, you're not acknowledging to yourself that you can't take action right now. So it's like sometimes, you know, like when you feel like you can take action, you really shouldn't be because you're not taking care of yourself. But on the other hand, sometimes you're also thinking, well, there's nothing I can do about it when you can. And so there's an imbalance of understanding of what your capabilities are. The Six of Swords has all these butterflies on it, and it's about transformation. And the truth is, you're transforming right now. And you're having a hard time accepting that you're changing and that this is normal. You know, like, unfortunately, all this pain that you're feeling and all these things, weird behaviors you're doing, or I shouldn't say weird, but all these behaviors you're doing and results of what's going on, it's because you're in pain, you know, and it's because you're changing, you know, and that's a truth. I think you're resistant to the idea that I'm not supposed to feel this way, or I'm not supposed to be this way. And the truth is that's part of you changing, you know, and sometimes, I mean, it's not going to look like a fairy tale. It's going to look like how you need to grow, and maybe you don't see all the answers right now, but it's coming, and you have to trust in the process. And then finally, you got this Five of Swords in reverse. I'm hearing there's a snake in the wolf's nest. And, you know, I'm hearing like the snake is yourself and the wolf's nest is where you've put yourself. And it's almost like the truth of the matter is you put yourself in this position and you're fighting something, and you're fighting yourself rather than the injustices that were happening to you. Like, you think that by beating yourself up or by beating up other people, it helps you face your past wounds, or that you are, you know, receiving judgment or the punishment that you deserve. And it's fundamentally not true. And it doesn't need to be, like, you can hold yourself accountable and not do it in a way that's self-destructive and not self-damning and self-harming. It's almost like, again, this polar opposite of black and white, black and white. We can't see anything in the middle, and you go from 0 to 100. And again, in this card, there's these two pheasants that are fighting, and there's this one that literally is slashing the throat of the other pheasant. And yeah, I'm hearing you're just killing yourself. And you don't want to acknowledge you're even doing that because it hurts to see you do that when you keep switching from being super confident, super wanting to love yourself and working on it, and then going to the exact opposite of wanting to destroy. And because of this imbalance of those energies, you know, you can't even see what the underlying reasoning of why you're harming yourself in this way and what is causing all this. Oh my gosh, I got like another wave of just whoosh. A weird feeling kind of came over me. I kind of, and I don't know if it's your energy or mine, but I just feel like this numbing out, you know, where you don't know what's real. And you don't want to acknowledge that you don't know what's real anymore. Yeah, it doesn't have to be this way, though. The truth of the matter is your reality is what you create, and what you want out of it is what you'll get if you manifest it in the right way and you take action on it. Okay, so moving on to why are you avoiding these truths? So I told you what you needed to hear, but you're struggling to kind of grasp and understand what's going on, or you haven't had time to just sit and really think about what this means. So maybe if you need to take a pause about what you just heard and then come back later, that might be suitable for some of you. But okay, so why are you avoiding the truth, group 3? Okay, so you got 3 cards. All right, so from this is from my Symbolon deck. So I don't have like a traditional tarot name associated with it. But I'll kind of take a guess. And so you got the Leap of Faith, the Preacher, and then you got the Queen, which I'm feeling you're avoiding coming into your personal power. You definitely have a hard time with that, but it's accepting your being and state. Like, it's almost like you want to be constantly doing things and not wanting to hold the responsibility of taking charge of your own life and allowing surrender to be part of that process. Because some of what you're going through is, it's going to hurt no matter what. So running from it is not going to be the best. So there's a choice you have to make. Either you can face your problems, feel out the pain, and just work through it, just quick and dirty, and allow it to just be, or you can keep going down this path of avoidance, and it's going to continue to come back and compound and create more and more pain that doesn't need to be there. And, you know, it's something that you are fundamentally allowing into your life. And so the more you choose to stand up for yourself and allow yourself to just be in your sad state and not pressure yourself to be better, not pressure yourself to have it all, just allow yourself to have love and find love in everyday situations and soothe your wounds too. You know, you're avoiding truth because you don't want to feel good and feel worthy of the love that you deserve. You know? Because there's some really beautiful truths that are underneath all this pain. There's so much to you that's unforeseen right now because it's hard to work through the fog. You know, there's creativity here. There's beautiful, loving energy that needs access and is desperately waiting to open up and blossom and is ready for you. This leap of faith, you know, you're afraid to take that leap. You're afraid of yourself. You're afraid of hearing what your demons are saying. You're afraid of seeing yourself for what you are because it's the lack of acknowledgement. You think if you don't acknowledge it, it's going to go away, or you just don't want it to exist at all. Or you're afraid that by accessing these energies, it's going to create more negative and more pain. And that's not true, because there's a difference in how you approach this pain. If you're sitting here trying to relive the past over and over again, it only helps you so far, and it really doesn't do what I'm suggesting. This is about literally releasing the idea of what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and acknowledging that it is the way that it is. And then finally, with this priest in reverse, there's a reluctance towards you're avoiding spiritual messages. I'm hearing that your spiritual nature is kind of clogged right now. You don't really know how to hear or conceive strong messages, and by your lack of reluctance towards your true spiritual nature, it's also blocking you from a truth of seeing and feeling these things that are going on and hurting you in your life. Again, I feel like for a lot of you, there's some kind of spiritual trauma. Either, you had a spiritual experience that frightened you in the past, or I'm hearing Christianity, kind of burned you. I feel like there's a couple of you that might be loudly saying this, but there's definitely some kind of anti-Christian sentiment that has caused you to shut off from the full spectrum of what you need to hear. Because sometimes spiritual messages are coming to you from another source, but you don't want to hear it because of your own judgment towards how you were treated in the past. And there's a lot of blanket terms I'm feeling for any type of religious person that does not fundamentally agree with you. And that's why you're avoiding that truth, because not everybody is like the majority of people that they represent, and, you can have people that are different from you that have good truths that you need to be listening to, even if it doesn't always align with what you think is right. It's taking that time to feel it out and really be honest with yourself. But, okay. So finally, we're going to ask, how can you accept these truths? And what's some guidance to help you really be able to self-actualize? Do you pull cards or don't pull cards? All right, so I'm being compelled to not pull any cards for you, group 3, and what I'm feeling is patience. I'm hearing specifically patience is going to be good for you, because you're looking for a deadline for when is the pain going to end. And it's not going to end until you acknowledge what your truths are. And that takes time. And however much time you need to take is however much time you allow yourself to live in the shadows and allow your shadows to remain hidden. On a day-to-day basis, I feel like you're someone that you don't realize you're lying to yourself every single day. You're lying to yourself in how you're behaving and taking actions, and it's hurting you because you deserve to make choices that are beneficial to you and, don't affect you in a way that have long-term consequences. I'm told to specifically say that, but I feel like you're not paying attention to your future, and so the best way to really start accepting your inner truths is by diving deeper and allowing yourself to just exist the way that you are. Speak kinder to yourself, group 3. You have so much pain that, you don't need any more shit from you. Leave, the pain giving to other people in life. You're supposed to be on your side, and acknowledging your pain is going to be a lot easier when you're speaking kinder to yourself every day. And it doesn't have to be a big gesture too. Sometimes an act of self-love is just not saying the bad thing. If that's what kind of day it is, then don't say the bad thing about yourself. Just say, I'm not going to talk that way today. So I hope that helps you. I'm not really feeling compelled to say anything else because you're you're hurting a lot right now, and I don't think many other messages are going to get through to you right now. So I'm going to say a little prayer for you guys, group 3. I'm wishing you the best on your journey, and, feel free to reach out if you need to talk, or, if you're having issues with your healing process, because there's definitely a lot on your plate, and, don't be so harsh. I know it's easy to kind of get in that loop, but man, you're a strong person and you've overcome a lot, and you're going to continue to do that, so just keep acknowledging what you're hearing and let go of these patterns that are holding you back. I think it's about time you get on your side and, start living the life that you deserve and that what you want. Everybody wants to have a better life. And even if you think you don't, you actually really do. It's layered under a lot of hurt and pain, but you can get through this, and I believe in you. So anyways, see you around group 3. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hello everyone, you have chosen group 4, which is the Piece of Jade. And for today's reading, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer 3 main questions. What truth are you avoiding? Why are you avoiding it? And how can I accept this truth? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap into your energy, group 4, and see what's kind of going on, with your whole truth situation. What is kind of your truth? What is going on? All right, so the truth that you're kind of avoiding is it doesn't have to be this way. Wow. I mean, that's been a pretty consistent message across everybody, but for you, group 4, your main focus is things don't have to be the way Okay, so fundamentally, what you want isn't good for you. And what you think you want isn't truly what you want. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull some cards to clarify on that message. Wow. Okay, yeah, because I was hearing some conflicting words going on while I was pulling the cards. So, first card you got, all right, I'm not going to read this one. All right, so these 3 cards, you got, I don't need your approval. I know we have a soul connection. I was careless with you. All right, and so what these cards are kind of telling me is the truth that you're avoiding is you messed up and you made a bad call on someone that you thought was important to you, and it turns out that they're not as important as you believe them to be in your life. And by important, I'm talking about comparatively towards the energy that you put towards this person, whether it be a romantic partner. Most of you, this is a romantic partner, or an idealized vision of yourself. But yeah, if it's not obsession over another person, it's an obsession of you in a particular scenario and image that's reoccurring over and over again. And your soul is kind of crying out saying, it doesn't have to be this way because I don't want this. You keep telling yourself that you want these bad relationships. You keep telling yourself that you want this person so badly when really you're acknowledging that you need yourself right now, and that this person isn't able to provide to you what you want them to, and you freak out when they don't do what you want, because it isn't about them, it's about you and what your desires are. And you don't want this truth because I'm hearing that you're like, oh, this is so harsh of a reading. Why would she say something like that? And that's the problem, is you're avoiding acknowledging what is good for you and what your heart is really, really telling you. Again, this I don't need your approval. You don't need the approval of yourself. Okay, yeah, you don't need the approval of yourself to desire a better relationship. Like, I don't know what's going on with you, group 4, where you feel the need to wait for yourself to be happy and self-actualized to deserve a loving relationship. That's not true. And so what you're doing is because you're in this perpetual state of, well, my hero's coming, so what I'm going to do is I don't need to make better choices about my dating relationships now. He isn't coming, or he isn't blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of excuses for why you continue to shovel crap into your life when you know that, you know, you deserve better, and it's not going to get better until you start accepting you need to be treated better. I was careless with you. You're careless with yourself and with your heart space. You're so careless with your heart because it hurts to want better. It hurts so much because if you're careless with yourself, then you can get away with other people hurting you and have the blame shifted towards them and not with your own heart and not acknowledging what it's really feeling. That's really the core root of this. And I mean, I feel as though, like, you know, there's many layers between this truth and what's going on at the surface with you, Group 4. So some of you may be confused on why this is being said. But I think when you actually start pulling back some of the layers of what's happening, you know, you're careless with yourself and your heart space and what you allow in. And you need to take some time to figure out what that heart space actually looks like, so that way you're attracting what you need and not what you think you want. Because there's a distortion between wanting someone for an ideal and a programming that isn't actually an ideal that's achievable or relatable, and it's pushing the realistic, normal people away from you, being perfectly honest. Yeah, so this card there's like a man and a woman fighting. It's a card that's called conflict, and like, again, I feel like the truth is there's irreconcilable differences between you and this other person. I'm feeling you want this conflict because you're subconsciously trying to acknowledge to yourself that you can't handle this anymore. You don't want this dysfunctional relationship and all that. You really don't, but you show up for it all the time because you're scared of what it means when they don't show up for more. There's a lack of acknowledgement for wanting pain in your relationships. You know, you're seeking validation for why you should feel in pain. Yeah, it's kind of a unique feeling where it's like, you know, in order to acknowledge your pain and feel your pain, you have to be in a painful position in order to acknowledge it. That's a very distinct observation that I felt. And you need to understand that you don't need to be in a rough spot to acknowledge and feel your pain, okay? Like, perpetual chaos is not healthy for you, girl. And you don't need that anymore. And that's a truth you don't want to acknowledge because this is replaying a past situation in your life. And it's only going to continue the cycle until you start acknowledging that you don't know what you want. You think you know, but you don't at a deeper level. And the sooner you are to coming to that conclusion, the sooner you are to achieving what's actually meant for you. So, okay. Now I already know that, like, what truths are you avoiding? Next I'm going to ask, why are you avoiding it? And okay, so before I even picked up the cards, all I heard was truth. You're avoiding it because it's truth. You have a hard time acknowledging truth as a concept, and you don't really have an understanding of where truth lies in your own situation and within yourself, and thus it distorts everything beyond what you're seeing right now. Alright, anyways though, that was just a little tidbit, but I'm going to pull some cards. So, why are you avoiding truth? Just these two? Okay. So I had some cards from earlier, group 4 that they decide they want to come out and play. Okay, so as I said earlier, there were 2 cards that I pulled out in a previous reading that said they needed to come out later, and so they decided that they're showing up now. I'm going to go ahead and flip these over and say... Oh, ouch. Okay, I'm going to apologize in advance because this is going to be an ouchie. Okay, so I'm going to read these 3 cards to you because they've got some numbers and some words on them. So for the first one, 38, sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows everywhere. And this card I'm hearing is you're avoiding this truth because you don't want to burst your bubble. You are afraid to leave this happy space, this happy la-la land where everything's going to work out and me and my man, you know, we're going to do some tarot card readings, we're going to do some healing, and if only I could just show up better for him, he's going to get his shit together and we're all going to live kumbaya and happy hunky-dory. Or she's going to leave him and she doesn't, you know... Yeah, what am I hearing? Yeah, she doesn't need to be persistent anymore, or, you know, he's going to come to me, or I'm hearing from, like, the masculine point of view, she's going to stop acknowledging my weaknesses. Like, something about this connection between you and other people, it's just all focused on trying to feel happy and safe within a relationship, but it's superimposed, and once you acknowledge that superimposement, it means losing all that false happiness and hype that you've been building up for a while now about this person. And it doesn't need to go up in flames. I mean, I feel like some of you kind of panicked, but, like, at the same time, it doesn't need to be idealized and romanticized either, because it isn't real. And so you're trying to create happiness through artificial means. And that's why you're avoiding it, because you don't want to lose this little thing you did for yourself. Which, I mean, acknowledge to yourself, it's you trying to cope, you know, with a lot of heartbreak and loss in your life. And so it isn't necessarily a bad thing that you're doing this. It's just you need to acknowledge it when you're approaching this person or trying to make decisions about what to do in the situation, because this is getting in your way when you avoid, you know, reality because of something you created. You created your own distortion to, you know, self-harm yourself fundamentally, because it also goes into that whole cycle of, like, well, I set myself up for failure, so of course they're going to disappoint me. Of course they didn't turn out who I wanted, and I'm never gonna be able to find my person because blah, 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 blah. Like, this is some bullshit. And you know it's bullshit. You know. But, you know, it's time that, you know, you stop avoiding it. So next is 13, entangled. There's a lot of entanglement between you and this other person. And that's why you're avoiding seeing the truth, because it's all distortion. It's all, I can't see you for you and I can't see me for me. And so we turn into this big messy ball of just, we're together and we think it's sexy and we think it's sex, but it's really just molding things together that don't belong, and then they never fully unionize. Again, this entanglement is causing you to be not able to distinguish why you even love this person. Some of you obsess to a point where you don't distinguish what's happening to you. And, you know, it's causing you to avoid truth because you then have to see just how kind of messed up your situation is, or how much you have lost yourself in them and them lost in you, and that doesn't even belong to you, or that doesn't belong to them. And is some of this stuff even real? Are you superimposing yourself onto them in your views? It doesn't have to be this way. I'm just, again, reminding you. But this is why you're avoiding that truth of that person's not for you and isn't your person. Okay, so number 6, from scratch. I'm hearing you're scratching the surface of a wound that wound is preventing you from seeing the truth, because it's almost like, yeah, I don't know what this card traditionally means, but I mean, I just feel like you're picking at a scab. And so part of the reason why it's so painful to face the truth is because it's almost like you're reopening the wound, and you feel like, you're just picking at the scab because it's a hobby to, do, because I don't know, you just have that satisfaction. But it's that reopening of the wound that, you're trying to avoid, because you don't want it to fully seal shut, because you don't want to acknowledge what's going on under the surface and why you are seeking these attachments and why this person doesn't feel the way that you do, or isn't going to replicate what you need with them. It doesn't need to be this way. You don't need to be... Here's another thing, too. You don't need to be scratched in order to enjoy a relationship. I feel like you have such an association with pain by now, between what you've created for yourself and what people have legitimately done to you that wasn't right. Because of that, you haven't learned that you don't have to be hurt in a relationship all the time. That's what's causing you to avoid to see these truths, because you're so used to pain that it's just second nature to you. And that it doesn't matter if, they're really your person or not. You're just trying to get hurt again, because that's all you know and all you're familiar with. And it means acknowledging all this other stuff, too. So, there's more that needs to be said. Yeah, something about this entanglement thing, too. The scratching and the entanglement, it's like everything with you and your partner is surface level and has nothing to do with what's actually going on between the two of you. Like, for those of you that are in a partnership, your partner isn't going to satisfy what's in your soul, being perfectly honest. And you already know this. You just don't want to acknowledge it because, again, that entanglement's so deep within each other. And I'm trying to get a little deeper. Like, why can't you detach from this entanglement? Okay, you don't want to hear. And it's because it's almost like whenever someone tries to speak to you about this situation, there's a ringing in your ears that distracts you. Yeah, and I mean, quite honestly, it's fucking hard. And I mean, I'm not even saying like this is difficult. This is fucking ridiculously hard for you to be able to come out of this entanglement and enmeshment and breaking this happy-go-lucky thing through, like, because for some of you, this is what's keeping you going. Like, you chasing this person or chasing this dream of having this happy love thing is all you think life is about, and it's all you know, and it's all you think you want, when really there's so much more to your life going on than these silly relationship games. There really is more, and, you're not acknowledging that this castle you built in the sky, it's going to fall down and continue to fall down until you recognize that it's just a castle in the sky. And you're not going to attract real relationships and real meaningful things in your life until you stop with the games, stop with the imagination, put the book away, put the tarot cards away, and just cry. Okay? And mourn what's happened to you, mourn what you're doing to yourself now, but make a commitment to yourself that you're going to see things for how they are, and you're going to find real happiness that isn't based in fantasies and avoidance from your situation. And I almost feel like I want to put my hand on your hand and tell you that, you are going to make through this. You are loved so very much, and it doesn't need to come from a sexual partner. It doesn't need to come from that person in your life that you can't ever seem to get union with or achieve, time with them as much as you want. Because maybe sometimes you do get to spend time with them. And that doesn't mean it's always going to be romantic or the way you want it to and fulfill your ideals, but that love is still present. And even having those moments is worth more than, you know, trying to push and superimpose something that's not supposed to be there, you know? And it isn't fate. I hear with a majority of you, you are not fated to end up with this person. I don't know what you were sold or what is kind of going on in your situation, but your relationship with them is based off of their choices and your choices, and that's it. Okay? And that's why, you know, with this particular reading, I know this is kind of hard to hear, and you're kind of like, well, but I've been receiving these conflicting messages. Some of you are this way. Others are just kind of in straight up denial. All right? And I think that's up to you to discern. But really, though, this group that's like, well, but I've been getting all the signs and I've been getting all this stuff, and really what's kind of going on is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I'm hearing again, it doesn't need to be this way. It doesn't have to end just because you don't see them for who they are either, if that makes any sense. Like, just because this person is not going to be your forever husband or your twin flame or whatever the heck does not mean that they're not important to you. It does not mean they don't have a place in your life. It's just when you're tying every interaction to them as pieces of fate, it doesn't allow yourself or them to become autonomous. You know, fate revolves around organic growth and organic creation, and you can't be organic if you're so focused on your tarot card readings and what intuitives say and all this other stuff. Like take some time to like just kind of chill out, really evaluate, you know, like are we being realistic here? Take some time away from this person, or maybe focus on, you know, things that are actually real with that person and your situation, rather than superimposing energies and signs and all that other stuff. Because I'm not saying your signs are wrong, but what I am saying though is, you know, some of it's self-defeating to perpetually manifest something that if it's not meant for you, it's not going to happen. And you got to acknowledge that within yourself. And you'll know what's real when it comes to you. You know, and I feel like some of you are kind of scared right now because you're like, well, what if I never meet my soulmate? Or does this mean that the person I love right now isn't my person? And I think that's some discernment that you need to take some time to sit and evaluate with on your own. Again, things don't need to be the way that they are. And as you heal yourself, you will encounter healthier dynamics. Anyways, though, so going back to these cards, the next three you have is, I lied to you, we are not right for each other, and you were so easy to see through. And I'm hearing you're lying to yourself about what's important in your life right now. You're focusing on this other person as a way of avoiding what's going on in your search for love within yourself as well as with the world around you. And you keep lying because it's easier than facing harsh truth and facing the loss of love you've received in your life. You know, there's a loss and grief process of true, authentic, organic love in your life that you're seeking to fill. And, you know, unfortunately, the lie that you're selling yourself is self-consolation. You know, and that's why you're avoiding acknowledging your situation, because admitting to yourself that you lied is almost worse than, however, falling this apart, watching this relationship or this ideal situation to fall apart. You know, that's worse. And then again, we are not right for each other. And I feel like this person is also, for some of you, I feel like your person is lying to you intentionally to keep you around because they know that you are better for them than they are for you. And they want what you have and don't want to put the effort into it. And so they're taking from you what rightfully deserves to you, your time, your money, your energy. They're purposely taking from it because you're showing up for it and not making them work, or not making them, you know, prove that they're deserving of all this love and you're not going to get something back in return, you know, like you're not acknowledging what you need in your side of it. Yeah, I'm hearing and feeling so much codependency, but it's more than that. It's more of just denial of grief and denying the process of finding out what love is truly like. Because that's scary, especially when you're somebody that, you know, is perpetually getting hurt or doesn't have the right idea of what love even is right now. You know, and it's one of those hardest mysteries out there to solve. You know, you can go to any guru or whatever, but some people might not happen. Some people it will. And, you know, everybody's different. So that's why you got to be more realistic and tender with yourself about this journey, because you're seeing other people and you're superimposing these ideals thinking that, oh, well, if I have this person, I'm going to be okay. And that's not true. Even if you had this person that you're obsessing over and idealizing over, it's not going to get better when you're with them. It doesn't get better until you get better for you. Then everything else will fall in line. And again, it doesn't mean they're not going to be a part of your life, and it doesn't mean they're not significant to your journey. However, you got to tone it down a notch. Tone it down more than just a notch. I'm hearing just forget about what you think is going to happen and allow what needs to happen. And then finally, this last card with the you're so easy to see through, you're acknowledging that I have a feeling you see through your own bullshit, and that's why you're avoiding facing the truth, because it's hard to acknowledge when you've been self-sabotaging and choosing something that you don't want. And so when you can see through yourself, it's really hard to seek forgiveness for what you've done to yourself, what you've allowed yourself to waste time on and put up with. And seeing through fresh eyes is hard for you. You know, it's hard to be able to view love in a different way because you don't know what that means. You know, does it mean that all that love you put towards a person is going to go to waste? Does it mean that you were wrong for caring about them? And the answer is it doesn't really matter, because, you know, your side of things is your side of things. And, you know, your love is important to you, and so savor it and acknowledge it for what it is. Just don't allow it to backfire and manifest in ways that will prevent you from getting what you truly need. Okay, so we found out why you're avoiding these things, group 4. So for our last question, it's going to be, how can I accept this truth? And I have a feeling this is going to be the hardest one of all. I'm going to need to pull some cards, because this is not going to be something you want to hear, obviously. If the first part of it wasn't, this part's going to be realistic about what this acceptance is going to look like. I keep hearing it doesn't have to be this way. Nothing is always, things are always fluid and in motion. And while I can hear you rolling your eyes, the point being is that things change. And so to try to lock down a yes as a, trying to lock down a person or a situation or love in, it is controlling, and it doesn't work. You know, and you're never going to be able to have control of other people's choices and other people's decisions and what's going on. And so you're like, well, what's the point? And it's like, well, it's experience. You know, you want to experience love, and, you know, there's risk. And you got to kind of surrender a bit and understand that you will never have control. Even if you find, like, the person that's the one, you know, you're never going to have control of that anyway. You know? Of the scenario and how it happens, and, you know, wanting it isn't going to change the flow of what's supposed to happen and what's going to happen between the two of your choices. That's why synchronicity is very different than fate, because synchronicity just means you're flowing in motion and you're reflecting off of each other. It doesn't mean that there's like don't superimpose more information there than what's already there. Unless you're feeling it on a deeper level than this upper level chaos. And I heard a couple of you be like, oh, maybe there's still hope for my situation. I'm like, well, there isn't hope if you don't take the time to heal from your past wounds, but also just avoiding seeing that person for who they are and the lesson, like just enjoy their presence, enjoy their existence. No more cards? Okay. Okay, group 4. So the first thing I heard was don't look back at what you were in the past. So in order for you to accept the truths that you need in order to find your true person, you have to start looking into the future with fresh eyes and less focus on what was done to you in the past and what you think is going to happen. What's going to happen is a result of your choices and your energetic changes towards the situation. It doesn't have to fit in line with your ideals in order for it to work out. This person doesn't have to look like how you want them to. They don't have to be how they want you to if that person's better for you in general. And you're like, well, how do I know? And really, how do I want to answer this? So what I'm hearing is it's beneficial to seek wise counsel on this, because there are those that are wiser than what's presented to you currently that needs acknowledged. And, I think you need a little external guidance on what's beneficial to you because of your situation and individual needs. And I'm hearing, though, it doesn't have to be therapy. I'm hearing there's just some acknowledgement that needs to go along with that, with some other people first. And again, it doesn't have to be some fancy guru. Maybe it's just, taking some time to really, talk to your spirit guides, talk to someone that's older and wiser and has a successful relationship. I think it'll come to you the way it needs to. But anyways, I'm going to hop into the cards. So you got the card Parasite, which has the number 19. You have Calling the Storm, which is number 30. And you have 14, Hiding Your True Self. And so what I'm hearing is, in order to accept the truths of what's going on with your relationships, all right, I'm going to be pretty blunt. Clear out the parasites in your life. Stop showing up for people that are only taking and not giving back to you in the ways you want them to. And I'm saying really want, not like this fake, well, I really don't want that. But yes, you do. You do want that person to show up for you when you need them. If you're upset, you want someone to hold you when you're crying. You want someone that's going to listen to you and all those other wonderful things. Like, maybe sometimes you can get distorted, but the want is real. And you don't go to a leech for a blood donation. The leech takes blood from you. So, make sure you're clearing your energy and you're taking time to acknowledge what's a parasite in your life and what's not. And having that discernment will help you tremendously with being able to find out what is actually your soul's true calling towards a person. And ask for help. It's okay to not be able to handle these parasites on your own, because most of us can't. Especially when, depending on what you've gone through, be more honest and upfront with yourself about, not being able to discern things, because relationships are hard, especially adult relationships. It doesn't matter what you're going through right now. Like, it will always be hard to discern if a person's, what you want. So have a little faith in yourself and the people around you. God's going to support you in the way that you need it to. And he'll come when it comes. It'll come when it comes. Okay, this calling the storm. I'm feeling you need to come into your personal power, girl. Like, you need to step up and take charge and command of your life again. You need to take the time to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You're fulfilling your own needs and wants and desires that are not sexual and not romanticized. Okay? Like, not everything has to be about what, you see on Instagram or these idyllic, scenarios that you're playing through in your head. Call upon your resources, call upon guidance that is available to you either intuitively or from your friends or mentors. Specifically, I feel like with mentors, you need that backing of someone older and wiser than you to give you that push and support so that way you can go forward and feel powerful. And then finally, like, hiding your true self. You're hiding from yourself what you actually desire, and not, again, superimposed by your family's religious beliefs, your family's desires to have children, your family's desires for you to look and act the way that they do. Like, you're not being honest. And so the sooner that you live in your own personal truth, the sooner you will be able to attract a partner that will support you in that growth. And you're not right now seeking a partner that wants to support you. Not at all. And that's where, again, you got to make sure you're not getting into these self-harm loops. Because the truer you are to yourself, the less it's going to hurt when finding partners, because you're already going to know off the bat what you deserve. You deserve so much better, honey. All right, so these are the final 3 cards. I hope I will see you again sometime. I am not coming back. I do wish you well. And the words I'm hearing is, letting go is going to be painful. And, I think you have to accept that the version of you that's in love with these people and in love with this distortion, it isn't coming back once you decide to live in your truth. And I think that's scary for you to acknowledge, because it's hard to think of a life without having that pain of not having another person providing you with love, or pain of knowing that you messed up or you can't seem to attract someone. Like, that version of you isn't coming back anymore. And I think you're more afraid of losing your current version of yourself than you are about losing the people you're attracting. I heard one of you say, wow, that's so true. And I mean, it is, because, you miss yourself more than anything. But what's happening is you're taking it out on yourself in a way that's not addressing, you're not addressing it from a holistic perspective. Again, like, I hope I will see you again sometime. I feel like, again, this person that you're desiring, they don't want to hurt you. A lot of them don't. All of them don't, really. It's just that, this distortion between the two of you, like their wounds and whatever, like, if they can't provide you what you need, then don't blame them for your problems. They're stuck in their own shit, and you trying to push the soulmate crap on them, and it isn't crap, because, I mean, even if this person is your soulmate, it doesn't do them any service if you're trying to force something that isn't meant to be. And, again, I do wish you well. This person doesn't have to care about you in order for you to wish yourself well, Like, you don't need their validation to do better. You don't need their validation to feel secure in relationships or all that stuff. Like, I think you wanted to hear this from your person, but it won't be coming in the way that you want it to. You just want to hear, oh, I care, oh, they care, oh, they care, and it doesn't matter if they care. Okay? And unfortunately, in order for you to accept the situation you're going through, you have to be able to wish yourself well on everything you do, and especially in regards to relationships. If you start wishing yourself well, then you'll start finding the people that are going to treat you well. Wish yourself well, honey. You deserve it. You deserve people that will, you know, hold your face and dry your tears with their hands when you're upset. You deserve people that you can watch the sunrise with, like all that romantic stuff. Like, they're out there. And the moment you wake up to go find them, you will. But right now, you're not woken up. Not even a smidge. And, you know, again, I feel like this is kind of harsh for a bunch of you and a little soul crushing, but what I want you to understand is it's not like that love isn't there. What this journey about is working through your own projections and your own limitations in order to find that path forward and being able to see things clearly. Because when you finally have that love, it's free flowing. You know, so don't be so harsh on yourself when you're not achieving what you're looking for, when you don't acquire that person you want. Because, listen, if a person wants to be in your life, they will make it abundantly clear, you know, and they will try and put effort into you. If they're not doing that, then it doesn't matter, because you deserve people that are pursuing you and are in a place to give you what you need. Even if this person is not in a healthy place right now, you can't do anything to change their journey right now. So stop believing in something that was meant to support you, and instead it's turning you into a mess. You know, relax. You know, love is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be this painful. So release your shit and move forward, you know, happier, knowing that, you know, you've come out of it stronger, and you've come out of it knowing what love actually is and not what you're trying to feed yourself. You know, you're hiding your true self, girlfriend. Let your colors shine, my dude. Alright, well, that is all for your reading, Group 4. Thank you so much for taking this time to watch this video. And, like and subscribe and all that stuff. But without further ado, I will see you guys next time. Bye!